Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PixelPlay Podcast, the only podcast where apparently it's difficult for any of us to be all here all at once these days. But my name is Adam, aka CS Radical. Joined with me is Mr. Jin and Chris. Kaylan, his turn now to go on vacation sipping some margaritas. Chris, you had your time in the sun. Now it's his turn. I don't think I'm ever going to get my time in the sun because outside is terrible. Who touch grass? What kind of show do you think this is? I play video games. Grass is... I'm like a vampire. That stuff's going to make me, burn into a crisp and disappear.
Yeah, I'm picturing you touching sand once and your foot just burning like crazy and you cutting yourself or something.
I mean, to be fair, I actually don't like the beach very much, so it wouldn't be that surprising.
Yeah, these are not the vacations for you.
Look, if I want beaches, I'll watch anime. They always got a beach episode somewhere. I can be covered there. I don't need to go out there in real life.
Yeah, they really do. There's always the beach episode.
Yeah, it really does depend. There's the beach episode. Will it be the hot spring episode? Is there going to be the episode if they're in school? Do they have the pool day episode? So they all got to be in the really Japanese school swimsuits is one of the weirdest things to me because they just I don't know how to explain it. I guess it's also a lot of them have the big freaking it almost looks like a piece of paper that has the school logo on it that looks like one of those things that runners do wear in marathons where it shows their number.
Oh yeah.
And it's just one of those things that you look at and be like, no, that looks really, really dumb. No. But I digress. Anime, is just the absolute ultimate way to show off pure intelligence and nothing else. And there's nothing dumb about anime. Absolutely nothing at all.
Nothing at all. I agree. Fully.
No, it's all good. But yeah, this week on the show, we are going to be talking about a myriad of things, mostly because, let's be honest, nothing big really happened this week that is really, notable to talk about. And we finally got all our predictions done. I would like to say that, Kaylan so far is doing decently because Tekken is currently at a 90 on Metacritic, and he's the only one that S'd it. We're okay with Like a Dragon. At least that is if it stays at 90. None of us get points because we all guessed A. So far, prediction-wise, we're okay. I mean, it's 1 point off. For any of us that guessed A, oh no, 1 point up and we're fine. Or 1 point down and we're fine at an 89. But Kaylan with that early spot on Tekken, which I guess in retrospect, I shouldn't be surprised because I guess fighting games have just decided for the last couple of years, hey, we're actually going to be really good again. All of us kind of sat in a room and decided that we're just going to be good again. Except for Mortal Kombat, who's going to be we're just going to go do our thing, and you'll probably not like us. We'll see you on Switch. But Tekken 9's doing really, really well rating-wise. I'm happy to see Like a Dragon getting really good reviews. And I mean, again, I'd rather miss low than miss high because it means there's more good games coming to our library. So it's good to see that so far. Speaking of good games in our libraries, I haven't officially finished it, but I'm going to call review status on Midnight Suns now. And there's two reasons for it. One, there's a bunch of shit about to come out. I need to fucking gear up for that. So if I haven't finished Midnight Suns yet, we're just going to start playing the game of I'll get to it eventually. And then two, with the way that my game timing is, and I'm starting to use it more as a in-between phone calls at work sort of game, it's actually working out nicely more in that aspect, so I'm probably going to start pushing it to, okay, when I have a quiet moment at work and I can do something in the meantime, then I'll do that. And it actually is working out really well for that because it's not a game that requires a lot of intense focus because I can literally just take a turn in the game and go, yeah, I can put this down for 30 minutes while I go back to work. It's all good. It's one of those games that's pretty easy to hang in there with. And again, it's one of those games that I really have to give them props for taking two things that I love a lot, which is XCOM and Marvel, and I guess for lack of a better term, not fucking it up, because it's a pretty fun game. And I've already said it before when I was talking about it earlier that what they've done with, the mixture between a card system and, that XCOM, top-down strategy, it's done very well. I really do like how it is extremely breakable. There are just some characters that towards the later parts of the end game, you can get some ridiculous decks, and there are if you get a good set of cards on the early turns, I can literally walk into a fight in one turn stuff, depending on what they give me. And, granted, some of those times happen to be in the general missions where I do have mods that increase your number of party members you can take and therefore the number of cards you get at the start. But like even for main story missions where you only limited to 3 as a default, because the mods don't change that. Yeah, you can still get some pretty stacked stuff. Like right now I'm going with Nico Minoru, who is one of the Runaways, for those who, if you watch that series, which I imagine very few of you did, because I think that was a CW series and not very many people watch those. But she is extremely OP if luck is on your side, because a lot of her cards are, it can do this much damage, or this much damage when the card falls into your hand. And there's one card especially that once it's fully upgraded, it will do a set amount of damage to an enemy. And if it kills that enemy, it will then recast itself on another enemy. And it will keep recasting until the 4th time in a row if it allows you to. So what I end up doing a lot of the time is go, okay, so this card is letting me do 174 damage, and it will recast every time. I'm like, all right, so here's the last card I'm going to play. How many people can I get under that health threshold before I play this card, just to see how much I can clear off the board? And that ends up being my strategy so much of the time now, where it's like, okay, you take this guy down to health, you take this guy out, and you take all the small fry that are basically one-shot enemies. So that way I can clear the board for as many guys as possible that have actual health bars, and we can just absolutely wreck shop. And then her ultimate attack, now that I've gotten that fully ranked up, is there's a meter on the far right that gives you, it's called Heroism, and they would do like your more powerful attacks, because there are some attacks that don't cost any mana, but there are some that do. And that one is geared to how much Heroism you have, and it's a max of 10. And the set damage amount that you have for that card gets casted as many times as you have Heroism. So if you have max 10, it will cast that spell with that amount of damage 10 times on random enemies. So if you completely set the board up, you basically hit that card. And there are also cards that can reduce cost to 0 for these. So even if you have 10 Heroism, you can actually change the cost to 0. That's when it gets real fun. And you can just go, here, do that. And she goes, all right, I got 174 damage. I got 10 of these. Who's getting hit? And you go, yes, please. And it just clears the fucking board. And it's amazing. And there are other characters that I've taken too well as well. Like my main group, if I have to pick people in order, it's like I said, Nico. Spider-Man is fantastic for crowd control. Venom is also the same way too. Can't remember. I think Venom is DLC. I can't remember if Venom's DLC or not, because he has DLC missions, but it may be that, they added him later. I don't actually know, because I just bought the deluxe edition, so I'm not sure what characters were DLC and what weren't. I kind of assume that the ones that had like special side missions do, but at the same time, you never know. But he's also been very good. I do string to a character called Magic, who is a mutant with powers that allow her to open portals with a sword, and she is also great for crowd control. While Spider-Man kills stuff, Magic will literally place things around the board where you want them, because there's some stuff that have like specific area of effects, or there are some where she has an attack, for example, that can set up a portal, and the next time she knocks a person back, it doesn't go in a direction like where you are on the map, it'll automatically send that person through the portal. So you can set them up to hit exactly where you want them to. And there's also attacks she has that like can gather a bunch of people and put them all in one spot. So there's a lot of things that she does that really helps you set up like a big area attack, which can be real helpful when you're trying to clear like a bunch of small things off the board. And then after that, I pretty much switched between, like, for my last like big damage dealer, between like Deadpool and Blade right now, because they both have a good set of cards that can chain enemies together, so you can get like a lot of small stuff off the board, or you just straight up use the attack and hit the same thing 4 times to try to put just a ton of damage on them. And there's also like good effects that they have. Like Blade is really good that if you put the bleed status effect on somebody, is basically like, for JRPG fans, kind of like poison, where it's just you're doing damage every time they take a turn on their own. He'll get like extra damage bonuses for anybody that has bleed on them. Deadpool is a similar thing, where as soon as you kill an enemy, he has this meter that now starts to build, and if that meter is building, it adds added effects to the cards that he already has in his deck, and that can increase damage that way. So they're both really, really good for kind of like really increasing your damage across the board. So like there's a lot of guys there. Like there are some that just honestly don't get my attention. Like Doctor Strange, like I see what he can be used for, but because I'm kind of just playing a power game, he doesn't really work. He's more of a support role, and I don't really need support when Nico can literally just go, hey, here's this attack that wipes the entire board if you set it up correctly. I don't need support. She is support for herself. So it's all good there.
He's her own backup.
Ghost Rider is interesting too, but it's a risk reward because a lot of his attacks will take health away from him. And there are just some unfortunate characters in the same way that like JRPGs, if you have characters that come way in the late game, you've already kind of attached to certain people. So like Wolverine, I've gotten pretty late in my playthrough. I just can't find a use for him at this point. Morbius was the last DLC character that I really tried to use. He's got some interesting stuff, but like I've already found people that do what he does and does it better, at least from what I see. So there's just some that kind of suffer for it. But like the fact that I'm as many hours in the game as I have, and I've spent so much time grinding rather than I have been playing story missions, the fact that I've gotten so much out of it, not in terms of just value, but like for example, for anybody watching on screen, like I've been getting consistent side cutscenes the entire game, even though like I've had so many days where I've just done grind missions and not actually progressing the story at all, and I'm still getting new dialogue that I haven't seen before. So they've done a pretty good job of like, even if you're going to the same person over and over, like they're giving you some stuff that you can still take with. Is it like massively like important? No, but it's, if you're really enjoying that character, it gives you something else to kind of bite into, just to make you feel like you're not just going through the motions of just talking to NPCs and like a lot of other games where it's just, yeah, go and talk to them and they'll say the same 3 pieces of dialogue that they have coded into them. This time it's like, no, there's a ton of stuff. My only complaint right now is that there's not enough costumes for your party members. Because the main character, has like 40. You have a lot of different casual outfits. Most of your party members have like 5 or 6, and at least half of them suck. And I mean suck. Like they're really bad unless you like meme shirts, and most of them aren't even good meme shirts. So like if you want them to look cool casual, if you're lucky, there's one, and then there's like 4 or 5 other outfits that you're just like, eh. So like there's no point in really switching it up. So like I've had some characters that have been wearing the same fucking thing the entire time, and I keep unlocking stuff. I'm like, oh, I wonder what this one looks like. Nope, this one sucks too. Forget it. So, you know, as it is, like if I had to give it a rating right now, it's a 5. I don't know how I'll feel about it when the story actually finishes, because the story at this point it's not anything like over the top crazy. I'm not feeling like there's something really cool about it. It's just, here you are, here's a bunch of Marvel characters, go have fun beating the shit out of stuff and feel like you're playing like Magic the Gathering, but with Marvel characters. And I'm good for that. I like that.
Yeah, this game definitely seems like one that's more about the gameplay than like the overall story and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And Adam, I hate you because you've now sold me that I have to make this the next game in my backlog again, as you constantly do. I have this one. I got it in January. I mentioned that Humble Bundle, I think, in the last episode. But I've only played like an hour maybe of it. And just hearing you talk about how much you've enjoyed it, and just the fact that I don't really have a lot of time to do like a big gaming session for like 3 or 4 hours, and I've got like instead maybe, you know, half an hour to an hour here or there, and how well this ran when I was at least testing it on the Steam Deck. You've basically sold me that this is now, I'm going to finish what I'm playing, and that's going to be my next one.
It's definitely an easy game too that you can pop in for an hour or so and just, you know, take a couple of like, you can do like a story mission, do a couple of grind missions, do a little bit of that here and there. I don't know how, because if you're going to do it on Steam Deck, I don't know how mods function when it comes to Steam Deck.
A lot of them still work, but you got to like plug the Steam Deck in.
Because I found there were some mods that made the progress easier, and I know some people will be like, well, that, of course, that makes the game easier. Like, it's supposed to be a little bit stressful. I'm like, guys, I'm not playing XCOM. This is Marvel. I don't need to stress myself out with, you know, limited resources. Because I've got, like, mods that will increase the amount of resources I get off of a mission. I have there's a thing that you can do at the start of every mission that's like sparring, and it usually, I think if I'm not mistaken, it only gives you one to do a day. I was just like, no, let me do it with every single character. Like it feels kind of weird that you can only spar with one character. So I'm like, I put that mod on. So it does help like grinding characters a little bit better. But for the most part, like it's the decks that, you really start to craft like really good setups for. I guess my second complaint is that as the main character, you get a light and dark path, and that does come with cards too. I find that it is very easy to lean into the light side, not just because I'm a goody two shoes, but because some of the cards they put in there early on are just so fucking amazing. Like, for example, there is a card actually, there are two cards that I can think of on the light side where if you use that card, it increases all heroism gained for a turn. So you can just max out your heroism real quick through that. And then there's another card that it will increase a random card that costs mana 0 for that turn. And once you fully upgrade, it's free. So it doesn't count against your card turns. Because that's another thing with the system is that you only get so many cards you're allowed to play. There are some that have an option that if you use it and kill something, it's free, but they're also just straight up free cards. And that one's a free card once it's upgraded. So you can play this card to make any random skill completely costless. And if you're lucky, it ends up being one of the higher ones, and that doesn't cost you any part of your turn. So it also ends up being a good setup card. So the light path just seems way too easy to lean into because there's some stuff that's just you can't walk away from. There's just a couple of really solid cards that I'm like, I can't imagine my deck without these cards. And the only way now to get back to a dark balance with my character is to stop using light cards and start using dark cards. And I keep looking at the dark cards. I'm like, look, there's a couple of good ones here, but I can't put these out of my deck. They're so good. And it's just impossible. So I guess that's the other complaint I have, but like it's a great game. And it's one that I don't feel like you need to, it's not one of those games you can commit like an 8 hour or two. You can, but I think it's actually a great game to just plug in for an hour and do like a couple of missions, because once you've started really maxing out and getting these really OP setups, some of these missions can take less than 5 minutes. You can just breeze through them real quick because if you have the right setup, you can just absolutely pulverize the entire field.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm absolutely gonna do that. That's just my style. I'm very similar to you when it comes to it's the JRPG in us. It's you got to go God mode. You just got to get in like level 99 by the third boss, and then you're good. Like,
well, I mean, too, like with JRPGs, like I've always been the same way. I don't seem to care much about status effects. So like whenever you hear like when I started playing the Final Fantasy IV randomizer and learning about how status effects affect certain bosses, I'm like, this is the first time I've given a shit about this, because normally my solution is just I'll be 3 more levels than this and I'll just kill them harder.
Yeah, that's always my strategy. What can I do so that my sword is so powerful that I just kill everything in one hit? Perfect.
Which is why when I face bosses like Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts that I go, I don't want to do this because I can't outlevel this. This is bullshit. Yeah. This is why From Software games are not my cup of tea. I can't outlevel it.
Oh my God, that is what it is. I can't outlevel it. I don't care about the dying. I care that I can't outlevel it. Oh my God, you just figured it out for me.
It's not a real JRPG to us.
Yeah, it's not.
But have you been doing anything of interest, or are you in a similar case like me where your gaming time has been a little bit on the low side?
So my gaming time has been very much on the low side, but I do have 2 almost shout outs for stuff that I have actually been doing. So the first is a friend and fan of the show, Rajiv, who is one of the people who comments, and obviously you know him as well, lent me his PlayStation Portal last week. So very interested to get my hands on. He'd listened to the episode where Kaylan was giving his review and such, and was like, I want you to have your hands on with this too. I want you to see what you think of it, just because I was showing a bit of interest, and he had one and wasn't using it. So I didn't get to play much. I did, but I didn't play in the sense of like, oh, I'm 4 hours further along in Cyberpunk. No, I've been in Cyberpunk for 4 hours, but more just testing it versus actually playing. Because I played like 3 hours worth of PlayStation Portal and then used the Steam Deck's PlayStation Remote app for the same amount of time to kind of see like, would it be worth it to get a PlayStation Portal? If I go to the store and it's $100, they have the Steam Deck, would it make sense to grab it and stuff like that? And I can definitely see some of the benefits, but I can also still see some of the spots that the Steam Deck does better. For example, battery and stuff, surprisingly, same across both. Makes sense. You're just streaming, right? So it's just going to drain the battery at like the same rate. The PlayStation Portal screen, while yes, the Steam Deck screen is OLED and like a little bit nicer, just clarity and colors wise, it's bigger. It is massive. I did not realize the Portal screen was that big. I know that obviously I'd seen it written down, but I think it's 8 inches, and the Steam Deck LCD was 7. And then the Steam Deck OLED is like 7.4. And when I saw the 7.4 on the Steam Deck OLED, I was like, wow, the screen's so big now. This is amazing. But then I grabbed the Portal and put it on. I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? This is massive. This is amazing. So I immediately was like, oh, do I need a PlayStation Portal? It's like kind of silly. It's 0.6 inches of screen. Like it's bigger, but it's not worth maybe 200 whatever dollars. But still, like that is definitely a selling point. It is a nice big screen that's bigger than the only thing I think that would compare is probably like that PC handheld, the Legion Go Pro or whatever that one's called, because I know that one's massive. I think that's even bigger. That's like an 8 point something inch screen. It's like a freaking iPad with like controllers on the side of it. Like it's massive. But the Portal is definitely a bigger screen. But through my testing, I eventually found that the stream from the Steam Deck was a little bit better. The Portal had a great, clear, perfect stream and stuff, but I noticed between the two, and I know the reason why. But every 5 seconds ago, I would 5 seconds or so, I would notice like this millisecond of just the screen having a little like jolt where it just needed to catch up. It was almost like the image got slightly behind and needed to speed up and skip a frame or something to catch back up where it was. Where on the Steam Deck, it never had that. And the only reason it has it is that, as Kaylan was saying with the Portal, it has like no settings and stuff on the actual Portal. Like you can't go in and be like, oh, what's the bit rate I want to use and all of that. It's just connect to the internet. It's going to do 1080p and it's going to aim for 60 FPS. And like, that's its thing. And whatever settings are there, like the default, so it works. And it's good to go out of the box because it's console accessory, that kind of stuff. The PlayStation app on the Steam Deck, which is called, I think, Chiaki for Deck, or Chiaki is like the original one. That is a fan-made remote play app because PlayStation doesn't have one on Linux itself. And it has all these settings. It has like, what do you want your bit rate to be? What video codec do you want to use that'll give you the best possible image and all of this kind of stuff? And I used exactly what was suggested on the site where you actually get this. So I'm doing like 30,000 bit rate and all that kind of stuff. And it's making it that much more clear. I don't think because obviously the Steam Deck is being better at streaming. It's just streaming, right? It's all about the connection. It's just that it has the settings, and I think that the bit rate is defaulted probably to like 10,000 or something like that, and on the Portal. And if that opened up, it would be the exact same clarity, same everything, but on a bigger screen. So Steam Deck kind of has a little bit better there and stuff like that.
I mean, I would hope so for the price point.
Oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. But I can't lie. Holding it's a PS5 controller with a tablet stuck between it. Like every other handheld I've ever held has been not an actual controller. It's like something they've designed, like the Game Gear and the Game Boy and all that kind of stuff before it. Like it was designed to be comfortable in your hand as much as possible, but also have a specific shape, be ergonomic and all that, and just fit your hands nicely. But it wasn't like, here's an Xbox controller and bam, here's a screen right in the middle.
It almost feels like what a fan would draw of it, but it actually is the real thing.
And it's shocking because it's like you hold it and it's like, this looks weird. And then you pick it up and you're like, this feels amazing. This feels exactly just like a PS5 controller. And it's not too heavy or anything like that. It's even lighter than the Steam Deck because it's got a lot less going on, like hardware-wise and stuff. So yeah, it is a very, very cool device. And I really liked playing around with it. Now, if you already have a Steam Deck, especially the OLED one, I wouldn't suggest going out and buying this because it's only going to do the one thing. And if you've already got something, you don't need to spend another $200 to do the same thing. It has a few benefits, but I would not say they add up to $200. But if you're somebody who doesn't have one of these like portable PC handhelds and you have a PS5, especially if you do the majority of your gaming on a PS5, holy crap, this thing would have been like, if I had this like years ago or had this as a teenager back in like my hardcore PlayStation years, this thing would have been incredible to me.
I'm not a handheld guy now, but if this was a thing that existed in my PS2 days, like I would have been taking this and playing Final Fantasy X to bed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you can be on the TV and have the big story moments, and then it would be like Midnight Suns where you're gonna go grind out levels with missions. Just take it to bed and just keep playing. And yeah, it's not as nice. It's a smaller screen compared to a massive TV or whatever. But yeah, like I can just imagine all the JRPGs on PS2 where I actually had to grind out all those levels all the time because they didn't hold your hand at all. Like having that in bed or on a couch, grinding out levels while watching TV would have been a dream. So yeah, it's a really cool device. So I'm shout outs to Rajiv for lending that to me. And then my other shout out is to another friend and fan of the show, Kevin, who also listens, and that you know. He set up at his house an HD texture pack of Xenogears. So it's the like ROM, because how else are we going to fricking play this game at this point? Please refer to every other episode with all of my rants about I can't get Xenogears. And it's got somebody made an HD texture pack where they went back and like redid all the textures. And it's not like they made it look like a modern game. It just looks like the game that we wish Square would make, where just the portraits of all the characters are redrawn and the actual buildings and all the 3D textures look 4K and actually like look okay on a giant screen versus like super pixelated and like 480p or whatever the PS1 was. Oh my God. Like, oh, my friend Kevin has like an 85-inch TV or some ridiculous thing in his house. He's a fellow gamer, believe it or not. And when all of a sudden the intro to Xenogears, like just the square soft with the music and it had the lines going into the Xenogears thing, I thought I was like in space. It was insane. It was so cool, like just seeing the massive thing, and it looked clear. Because normally you take a PS1 game, put it on an 85-inch, you can't tell what you're looking at. It looks like a whole lot of pixels and colors, but you cannot really tell the image you're looking at.
Yeah, it's like when I was recently messing with the PS2 emulator on PC and I was playing Shadow Hearts from the New World. I was showing you guys the before and after, and you're putting this on a 4K monitor and you're stretching it out to be 16:9, and you're just like, wow, this looks terrible. Sure, it's running at 60 frames, but this looks terrible. And then you put all of the filters on it so it automatically up-reses everything to 4K, and you're like, why don't they just do that and just let a piece, like, sure, will it be amazing? No, but like, shit, just do that for a couple of games. Like, just take anything interesting, up-res that, sell it for $20, boom. Like, it seems like it's almost no work, too.
Yeah, if I had, like, if that went on, I'd pay $30, whatever. Square, you'd charge too much, but I'd buy it. Like, if they took this, exactly it is, this remaster, and just sold it somewhere, it'll be on the Switch and Steam and probably PlayStation, and I'd buy it on all of them. Like, I don't even know how I would handle it. But yeah, I actually got a bit of a Xenogears fix, and I was able to remind myself how ridiculous that game is with its dialogue, and it's so freaking funny because it definitely is a show of the times of JRPGs of the 90s and some of the things that they could get away with saying, just even NPCs, and you're like, what, why, you can't say that. Oh my God.
Yeah, at some point I can't wait to actually play that game myself, if it ever does, get re-released, because that'll probably be how I'll end up getting around to it. But like, I know it so well for its music. I mean, one of the songs that I even I don't perfectly play on guitar, but I have learned how to play at least a little bit of Gathering Stars in the Night Sky is one song that I've gotten into, and it's such a beautiful piece of music too.
Oh yeah, the music is probably why I keep going back.
I don't know what it is about specifically PlayStation 1 era games. So many of them just had probably the most beautiful music. I wouldn't say they're overall the best music of all the eras, although I would say Chrono Cross still to this day is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time.
Oh, easily.
But like, there's something about how music was written for that sound chip that just is so serene is like the
Yeah.
best word I can come up with for it. Like more like other tracks don't work as well, like your heavier tracks, no, but like anything that when you just need to sound really chill or calm or beautiful, that sound chip did it. And it's so weird how it's specifically that one, because I don't feel like Super Nintendo did beautiful as well. I think it just overall created a good atmosphere and just has aged well. And then anything beyond that is a lot of music now just sounds very atmospheric, so it doesn't really last the same way, without like counting licensed music, of course. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, Xenogears is Yasunori Mitsuda music, so that makes sense. Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross.
yeah,
Sea
I
of
don't
Stars,
pretend
like,
that my favorite track in Sea of Stars is from him. So
yeah, no, he rivals Nobuo Uematsu to me, as like the two of them are always competing for my heart for sure when it comes to the music.
I mean, if I was gonna
The
hot take it,
Xenogears,
I'd say Yasunori is the more memorable for songs, but Nobuo is just like the body of work overall is just better. It's kind of in the same way that like for the longest time I used to say Final Fantasy X is my favorite, but 6 is easily the best.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I highly suggest, man, like getting the ROM and just installing the texture pack. Is just one file that has to be in the same folder. Completely change it, and you can just play through the game. And oh, it is a beautiful piece of work. That game. The story is deep as all hell, like going into so much philosophical stuff. It is a little dark at times, but not overly dark all the time. Just like the odd like time, it'll be a little bit. And the music is just to die for. Like it still, I play it in my head all the time. I listen to it on Spotify. I love it so much. So shout out to Kevin for getting that Xenogears set up, and can't wait to get more of that done, because I need Xenogears.
And I guess a small shout out to me because I introduced you and our friend group to Lethal Company, and that has been
oh yes,
that has been a trip.
Third shout out, Lethal Company. Holy crap! If you had shown me that game a year ago and no one was playing it, you're like, here's a game. I'd have looked at that and said, who got high and made this?
And also you would have said, I'm not playing that. That looks like a fucking scary game. I don't want to play that. Which is also what I would have said.
Yeah. And that is one of the most fun experiences I've had gaming with people. I think like the last time I had that much fun was when I first found Left 4 Dead. And that is high praise, because Left 4 Dead is just like the co-op king when it comes to games to me. And this is just that. Whether you win, whether you lose, it is fun every single time. And oh my god, Lethal Company. Yeah, so
and especially too, like with the mods where you can put more than 4 people in, because the normal cap is at 4, but there are mods to extend your party. To have like a ton of people and just go, all right, minions, go die for me. And I can just watch it, because I'm usually the guy in the ship that's watching all the radars, and I'll see what you guys are up to, and I'll just see, oh, you fell in the pit. Oh, you clearly got gotcha'd by this thing, and you're all panicking, especially, you know, when there's no walkie-talkies left, and I can just tell, like, oh, they're all fucked.
Yeah. And for anybody who's listening right now and shouting at your screen, like, it's cheating, it's too easy if you have more than 4 people. No, it is not.
I mean, assuming your friends are intelligent, which our friends are not. We are all dumb as fuck.
No, we start in a single line. We've seen the map so many times. We know where the building is on all the maps. And somehow, out of like, I think last time we had 9 of us, you remain in the ship. 8 of us leave that ship. And every time I get to the door, I'm with 2 people. Only 2 other people.
Yeah, I'll see all of you in a group, and then 2 minutes later, I'll be like, why are 5 of you dead, and 3 of you are in the same pit, and then 2 of you are literally across the map on somewhere else? Like, what happened?
Yeah, nothing. We just didn't walk in the same line, or someone got distracted.
Yeah, there's a shiny thing somewhere, and they just all vanished.
It's gotta be. I don't know. Because we could just stick together. Like, follow the person in front of you. Be a bird. Be one of the birds going migrating south. They just look at each other. Follow the one in front of you. That's it. Be a lemming. That's all we had to do.
I'm convinced we could go in with 20 people, and we would still like finish most missions with like only 10 people alive.
Yeah. No, it is horrifying. And usually we'll see something and then you'll yell in the walkie-talkie, oh, it's that. As long as you leave it alone, it won't hurt you. And then by the time I'm ready to tell everyone that, they're beating it with a shovel and all dying because they pissed off this thing that I don't know any of them. Every time
Or
I
even
see
later
something, I'm
on,
like,
I'll tell them not to do something, and then 3 missions later, they'll just do the thing that they're not supposed to, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I died. And it's like, yeah, no shit.
do we need the beehive? No, I'm picking up the beehive. Don't do that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if we did it correctly, we could take the beehive, but we don't usually do that very correctly.
The most successful one is where I sacrificed myself so you guys could grab the beehive that was literally right next to the ship.
Yeah, I mean, monetarily, it made sense at that point.
Yeah, my body was just left behind, but it is fun. Even when you die, the fact you're in a voice chat with just the dead people is so great because now you're watching everybody and you're laughing about how you died, laughing what's still happening on the screen. And then usually somebody returns to the ship. They're the only person left. And they're like, Adam, where is everyone? And then your response is, they're all dead.
Yeah,
and that person.
That's my favorite thing is when all you die and I'm the only one left and I know one person's alive coming back to the ship and they'll be like, all right, do you know what's going on with everybody else? I'm like, yeah, they're all gone. We're leaving now. And they're like, oh, okay. Because that's the one person who separated from the rest of y'all, and y'all went into the other room and then separate after that, and you're all dead.
That is such a fun game. Best like 12 Canadian dollars I've ever spent in my whole life.
It's still in early access, which is just it makes you hope that, you know, the more that gets added to it, it's going to be even more fun.
Oh, for sure. I can see more maps, like more moons and stuff being added, that kind of stuff. Maybe a new enemy type. But yeah, it's even as is for the price point. It's a perfect thing where not every game has to be this AAA.
Yeah, we've already long got our money's worth at this point.
Yeah, it's just a $12 simple game with very basic graphics. You get like 1,000 frames per second when you're in the menu, but it is joyous. I can't wait to play that more this week. I can't wait till when we play again.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of things we can't wait till we play for, it's the best I'm going to get for a segue here. Xbox did their developer direct. I'm going to be completely honest. I almost want to say I don't care about anything on this list. I'm more tepid on some, and there are some that I know just aren't for me, but we'll go through them one by one. Right off the bat, Ara, History Untold. I'm sure you might have an interest because I know you're more of the strategy game guy than I am. Obviously, Mr. City Skylines these days, but...
Yes.
And also, were you a big Age of Empires guy? I can't remember if you talked a lot about this or if it was something else.
I love Age of Empires. I've only played a couple of them back in the day, and I'm replaying through them, but they're in the backlog. Yeah, but like that, StarCraft, any of these strategy games, RTSs, I love them.
Yeah, like I can't say there's anything about that trailer that made me go, oh, this is the one I want to try now. I think the closest you're getting me to strategy games these days are your XCOM level kind of games where there's still more of like a turn-based combat sort of deal to it. But like from what I saw in that trailer, I'm thinking, well, if that's what people are into, they're probably pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely stoked for that one. That was one of my favorite ones, but only because I was like, Microsoft has decided that they have Age of Empires, and then they looked at Civilization and said, we should do that. Barely change it. Let's just do that. I remember on one screen, instead of Joan of Arc, it was like Jeanne d'Arc or something like that. They just changed the name slightly too. Like it's like this weird.
Yeah, Jeanne d'Arc has been a pretty commonly used thing over the years. I mean, I know there was that like PSP JRPG. I know the Fate Stay series for anime wise, they've done that now. So it's like seems to be like when people don't want to actually like outright say it's the historical figure, they're just like, yeah, you know what this actually is, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm stoked just because, yeah, I love like PC strategy games, and I'm happy to see a major developer working on them because normally, like, you'll get these kind of games, but it was Blizzard and Microsoft. They were the only two, and it was Age of Empires and StarCraft. And StarCraft 2 is like, I don't even like 14 years old or 16 years old at this point. Like it's pretty old. It's been a long time. And Age of Empires 4 came out and it was like, whoa, that's back. What's going on? And now they're doing this. So I'm more just happy that the genre is still being worked on by a company like Microsoft.
Yeah, because it's not like there aren't like smaller companies that are doing it, say on Steam and such, but at least now it's like something that's way up there and like a pretty big name and it's actually being showcased. Whereas a lot of the times, a lot of these games kind of just get like their trailer and then that's about it.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. But Yeah, that's just because I am that kind of PC guy. I imagine this is probably lowest on the list for most people, just because anyone casual is not playing that game. Like, so it's automatically at the bottom of their list. But me personally, I'm stoked. But
I think in terms
yeah.
of also games that are probably low in the list is going to be Avowed, and I think I'm at the point that I'm ready to say that first-person spellcaster games just aren't interesting. I think I'm finally at that point of going, I just think it doesn't work.
Yeah, is it spell casting? Yeah. I've never been
Because
even
like
with
Immortals of
Skyrim and stuff.
Adium, which was the one recently, like that didn't really like no one really's talked about it. And I looked at
Mm.
the trailer for this one and I said, this looks like a first-person shooter game without the excitement. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I can't tell if it's going for like first person shooter or like first person like Skyrim. You know what I mean? Where it's
Hmm.
not like just action all the time and it's more about exploration and fantasy and being immersed in a world. It's hard. I can't tell. If it was more like Skyrim and it was like very atmospheric and stuff, which I'm not really seeing that. It
No, I
seems
don't get
like
that
maybe a
vibe
little, but
either.
not enough. Yeah, so if it was that, I'd be like, "Oh, I haven't played Skyrim in a long time and Starfield wasn't very it wasn't amazing. It was fine, but it was not like the fantasy like Skyrim feeling. And I think that's because of, it's space and stuff. It's not going to have that feel. If it was kind of like Skyrim and it was more about that exploration and just that fantasy aspect, maybe I would have actually been interested. But yeah, I'm feeling like it's more they're going for that fast paced first person shooter, but now with magic in a fantasy setting because it's not as overdone as other first person shooters maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's not to say that, like I want one of these to actually work really, really well because I still think like internally my brain goes, yeah, like a first person spellcaster game seems like a cool idea, but I think it might just be at a point that it doesn't work with like a slower, more realistic kind of like setup to it. I think it needs to be something more akin to Doom where it's just really fast paced.
That would be cool. Doom, like gameplay, speed, but magic in a cool setting. I could see that. See that? Yes, I agree.
Yeah, like it feels like it's at that point of that it's because I mean, again, looking from what Immortals of Avium was showing off, and it's not the first time that somebody's tried to do this. It seems like every time they do it, though, like it just feels like it's not correct. I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like it just doesn't feel
Mm.
like it actually is the right setup. Now it may just be a new concept, and it might just not be clicking for me personally. But it also seems like it's not clicking for most people because these games haven't really done well. Now that's not to say that Avowed might not change that, but at least in a similar vein of like how, I mean, look, Starfield we knew was going to do well, but that was because of the name behind it. Avowed, I feel similarly in the way that I feel about Starfield, where I went, I don't think this gameplay is going to suddenly be anything like overly interesting that's going to get me to go, wow, what a breath of fresh air. I just think that this game is going to be, if it powers through something, it's going to be off of Obsidian's name and not anything
Mm.
else. Now, I hope that this does well because I do appreciate Obsidian. I love them a lot. I mean, The Outer Worlds was the last thing that I've played from them, and it was fantastic. But this is one of those games that, like, I think either is just not for me or is just a concept that just doesn't seem to work right now, and no one's kind of cracked the formula on how to make it do so. Maybe they'll be the ones to do it. I'm just not convinced as it stands right now, but they get put on Game Pass. I get to try them for free. Who knows? Although I said that about
Yeah.
Redfall, and then I never played Redfall, so yeah,
Didn't even try.
it
Did
may
not
not
even.
come out that way, but we'll see.
I feel like it'll be better than Redfall. I'm gonna throw that out there.
There's a good chance you're correct on that one.
Yeah.
And then we move on to Visions of Mana, which I was shocked to see there because I'm like, wait, like I thought it was when it said Visions of Mana, my brain went, oh, so somebody's making a game, that's got a similar title, but it's not directly from the Mana series. And I'm like, oh no, it is. How the fuck did Xbox
Yeah.
nab that? Okay, whatever.
Yeah. When I saw that, my first reaction was, is this Xbox fucking saying they bought Square Enix? I thought it was like an acquisition mention.
I mean, there are
I'm like,
rumors going around
really?
that 16 is going to be getting put on Xbox soon. So
Like, holy, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that Japanese games and software developers are getting along with Microsoft, because it is annoying when, you want to play Octopath Traveler 2 or I don't know, whatever it is, and it's not on that system,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like, I
Xbox
do
was
like,
they were in the doghouse with Japan for a little while there because Xbox and Xbox 360 were not hubs for anything.
no,
Even Xbox
not at
One
all.
really didn't. Like, this is the first Xbox generation really that has actually had presence in the Japanese RPG market.
Yeah. And I will admit, when I saw Visions of Mana, which by the way looks delightful, looks like a mana game. I mean, I'm not huge in the mana games,
No,
but
same. Like, I haven't been really into it since Secret of Mana. Like, it really has been
yeah,
since like it
like
first
for me,
started
it
for
was
me.
back then, yeah. And it's a very cute looking game. It looks fun, very Square Enix.
It's
Um,
beautiful, yeah.
it's beautiful. But I was thinking, like, wait a minute, I thought this developer direct or whatever the heck it's called was Microsoft like developers, because I feel like that's what it was last year. That's where we got the Hi-Fi Rush announcement and then surprise drop and everything. Um, but yeah, like I saw Square Enix, I was like, oh wow, did they pay to be in this or something? Because I feel like all the others are Xbox first party developers on their list of so many of them. But yeah, I was surprised that Square Enix was there. I'm not like angry or anything about it. It's not like they took another game away and threw that one in. I think last year's developer direct only had like 3 or maybe 4 actual games shown off. So
I just checked
still,
to make
I was
sure
surprised they were
too.
there.
It is still releasing on PlayStation, so it's not like it's an exclusive either. So
Yeah, that's what makes it so
it
interesting.
is its debut on the series' debut on Xbox. So maybe they decided to do something special for that, and maybe they are throwing a bone to Square to be like, hey, like we'll throw you a bone to put this game that, let's be honest, is not going to sell nearly as well as other Square Enix properties, but it's their way of
No.
going like, hey, let's give this the chance to really have a good shot at doing well. And you guys can kind of, scratch our back once in a while too, when we need something out of you guys. So who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah, that
everything
was
everything
totally
is business. There's always something else on the back
Yeah.
that we just don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
about. So,
But yeah. Cute.
uh,
I would try it if it was on Game Pass.
yeah, I would probably take a crack because I mean, it's still got nostalgia value. It also just looks like Dragon Quest but third person action. So sure, I'll
Yeah.
take a crack at that.
Yeah, why not?
It's not going to be as pretty. It's going to be Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which I've still got to go back and play the first one. I am excited to play this game, but I don't know how excited I'm supposed to be because I haven't played the first one enough to get a sense yet. So,
I played through the first one on when I first got my Xbox Series X. The first Hellblade was one of the probably like a month or 2 in. I started playing it. The game, as you know, I'm a scaredy cat with all games. So it wasn't something I played like all in one sitting and all that kind of stuff. I had to take breaks. Like I'd play an hour to 2, and then I'd be like, okay, I need to take a break. Good thing is the game's like maybe 8 hours total,
Mhm.
so it doesn't take a long time. It is so incredible. Like even though I'm petrified to play the second one, it will be a day one install and play for me for sure. Um, it is just so atmospheric. It is beautiful. It doesn't come across as always in the trailers and stuff like that, but the motion capture and the atmosphere that they've done graphically and everything like that, it is a trip. Like it is one of the nicest looking games I'd ever played at the time. And this second one is looking like it's going to also look really, really nice. Now, not nice like pretty and happy. It's dark and it is terrifying at times, because the concept is around mental health and stuff like that, which is really, really, really cool that the way they did it. Highly suggest anybody who play with headphones.
Yeah, that is the thing
Because
that I think even the game at the start says play with your best
play with
headphones.
headphones. Yeah, because there are things that when it comes through the TV, they're really trying to make you feel like how this person is feeling,
Yeah,
and
because
they
there's
hear
all the
like
voices in
voices
your
in their
head.
head.
Yeah.
And I did it with headphones, and it's like voice recordings that are whispered and all this other stuff, and it's just faint enough that you hear it in your ear, and it actually freaks you the hell out.
And it's also like
'cause you
very
forget.
pointed too.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely that very good use of 3D audio where it feels like, there's somebody up here talking and then there's somebody down there talking. Like it really does feel like there's a bunch of voices rattling around in your head, and it's very
Yeah.
well done. Like the audio in
It
that,
is
I
so
only
well
played
done.
like the first like 30, 45 minutes of it. And even then I was like, this is great. My PC couldn't handle it though. So I was gonna get
Mm.
around to it with my Xbox now that I got that, and it just hasn't happened yet. But it's something that when I was still playing it on PC through the lag issues and stuff I was having, where I'm just like, dude, this sounds incredible.
Yeah, the sound and the visuals and the story are what make that game. I can't even remember the combat. It does have combat, but it's more like you walk to a specific spot and some enemies will spawn, you deal with that spot, and then you move on. Um, I don't remember it being memorable. I remember it even being a
No,
little
the combat
difficult
wasn't like
sometimes, but
extremely memorable. It was more like the actual like narrative that was selling it.
yeah, yeah, it was. And I plan on replaying the first one because the first time I played it on Xbox, I beat it, and I was wondering why my achievements weren't popping. And it turns out that there was a glitch back then with the Series X when it first came out.
Oh,
So
so it's
like,
so it's not wanting to replay it for, revisiting the story. You just want the achievements back. I see how
no,
it
no.
is.
I had already told myself way back, like I'm gonna replay this to get these damn achievements because it pisses me off that I've would have had 100% completion because I did all this side shit, and I'm like, oh, it'll probably pop later. It never did. I have 1 out of like 10 achievements. It's so frustrating. But I told myself, like, I'm going to replay it. And it was like 2021 or something where they were like, hey, a second one's coming. And I'm like, all right, when it gets closer to that, I will replay the first one to refresh myself with the story since it's so narrative heavy. Then I'll go into the second one. And yeah, so this is perfect. Two birds, one stone. I do really want to replay it and I want to get my damn achievements. Yeah.
And then last but not least, that obviously leaves us with the one that I think the most people were looking forward to, and that being Indiana Jones, and now the title we know, The Great Circle. Um I'm I was really interested when I first watched the trailer, and the more I've thought about it, the more that I'm like, I'm tepid at best because again, Bethesda, so there's always my guard up right now with them. And I also like am not sure how I feel about essentially what feels like Fallout but Indiana Jones in terms of
Mm,
like its structure. Like when I found out it was first person, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like Indiana Jones is just, and maybe it's the Uncharted Tomb Raider brain in my head, but like I feel like a third person game would have made more sense. But I also see what they're trying to do by making it something that's more their own.
mhm. Yeah, they don't want to be too close to Uncharted and Tomb Raider, which is funny because those genres exist because of Indiana Jones, I think. But yeah, want to do something a little different, do it first person, make it their own. They're already good at that concept, at least with the first person, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, they've obviously done what they can. Obviously they've tailored Indiana Jones to look as much like Harrison Ford as they can do. It's Troy Baker doing the voiceover. There was a moment where I'm like, wait, did they actually get Harrison Ford? And then I stopped and went, no, there's no way his voice sounds that clear anymore, being how old he is. It would be way more gravelly. So I'm like, okay, no, who is this? And then I saw it was Troy Baker. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense.
It's funny. I was halfway into the trailer and I'm like, this voice, it's trying to be Harrison Ford, but it's not. Who is it? And then it was one sentence and I was like, oh, it's Troy Baker. I just heard his voice. I heard him doing Harrison Ford's voice. I heard it. And then it was him.
And admittedly, also because we are putting the trailer on the video screen for this version of the podcast, what got my attention in a negative way was seeing Todd Howard's name to it. And this is not anything against Todd Howard, it's the track record that I have with him recently. Because apart from Starfield, which I still have a lot of negative things to say about it, whereas I still at least enjoyed it enough to finish it, but like a lot of what's come out of his name recently has not hit with me. So there's always that
Mm.
worry of, okay, are they going to further ruin something that, well, let's be honest, Disney is also already completely fucked up and in the last movie, and was already fucked up already with Crystal Skull. So it's a property that's been on thin ice for a long time, and I guess it's the first time we're getting like a real like heavy budgeted game for it. So I'm at least curious to see how that goes, and I think that's where most of my intrigue is from. It's me wanting to see, okay, when we actually put some big money on it and put all the cards on the table, what can we actually get out of this license? Because no one's really taken, like, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody's taken a real good crack at it. Like, Star Wars
Mhm.
obviously has had 1,000 different attempts to go real big with it. This is the first time that I think Indiana Jones is really getting put in the limelight like this. So that's
Yeah.
most of my excitement, is being, okay, it's our first real big indie game. Let this actually be really, really good, because we need we need more movie license games that actually like sell really well in terms of, their critical acclaim and that it does good numbers. Because I know a lot of people say, well, gaming is getting out of good ideas. I'm like, yeah, but also let's be honest. Are you really mad that like that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Shredder's Revenge was amazing? Like, come on, are we really upset that another Ninja Turtle game did well? Are we really upset that these happen? No, we just want them to be good. We just always get mad when they end up being really, really bad cash-ins.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope this is really good. And because one, I love that franchise. Obviously, it's purely out of nostalgia. The first three movies were amazing. There was tons of Indiana Jones games, but a lot of them were like point and click adventures in the 90s from LucasArts games and stuff.
Yeah.
And I loved those. Those were really great, but they weren't obviously this.
No,
so
they weren't
right,
what you see with like Star Wars Rogue Squadron or Knights of the Old Republic or well, now that we have Jedi Fallen Order, or even why am I blanking? Unleashed. There we go.
Oh yeah. Shadows of the Empire, Unleashed, the new Outlaws or whatever that one's called is coming out. Like
Star Wars has gotten just a ton of stuff. And Indiana Jones, I'm surprised that honestly never did, because with the success that Tomb Raider had, you would have figured somebody would have put big money on it, and it doesn't seem like, maybe it did happen and it just was so bad that no one paid attention to it. But same with Uncharted was a big thing, and you thought no one tried Indiana Jones. Maybe people just went, well, that already basically is Indiana Jones. We shouldn't probably try to copy it, but
yeah. It's crazy because when you think of Indiana Jones, I get why the movies now are harder. Harrison Ford was getting older and you don't want to replace him. Makes sense. But games-wise, they could have made so many games because it's just like always another adventure. It's not like Star Wars where it's like, where does this fit in the lore? How's this person related to Luke Skywalker? Like, you're always trying to fit everything in and it's too much. Indiana Jones is just like, here's also another adventure he randomly went on at some point in the 30s or something, or 40s, right? Like, you can just throw that out there and just make up a story, and it's a one and done, and you're done.
Yeah, you could even do something like a sort of like the Telltale games where there's like an episodic thing where it's just a long like episodic told story. Even like something like, similarly like an Until Dawn, where not like obviously like a horror vibe, but like in the sense of it's a one game interactive story where, depending on how you do is how you get to certain places, or how, maybe certain allies that you have over the course of it, how they die or if they survive or things like. There's so many little things you could do with indie that could make it interesting, because while it's an adventure, choose your own adventure seems like a great idea for that.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, because the last fun indie game I remember playing was like Lego Indiana Jones, and like that's just because it's a Lego game.
Yeah, Lego games are just never not fun. So
yeah, they're just fun. So yeah, I hope this does well. I am glad it's on Game Pass. I'm gonna play this day one for sure. I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. Indiana Jones fan. And I hope it's good. If it isn't, I mean, I'll play it for as long as I can on Game Pass, and in the end it's like, hey, it wasn't amazing, but I didn't pay for it. If it had really good reviews, this would be a game I'd be willing to buy day one, just again because of the franchise. If again it wasn't though, then I wouldn't. So very happy that this is on Game Pass. And very happy.
Honestly, let's be honest, if there's any game that's going to be really good about killing Nazis, it's the guys who've been making Wolfenstein.
That's so true. I had never connected that.
Now, as long as they don't do what they did with Youngblood, as long as it's not that level of cringe and it's more like the new Colossus and the New Order, yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I think I can go with that.
Yeah, just play Wolfenstein, but then like play the Indiana Jones theme. It's the same game. You'll be fine.
And then the sequel to Indiana Jones, it'll be Indiana Jones in a wheelchair in the first mission, fighting people off with his whip, just like Wolfenstein.
That was such a good mission. It shouldn't have been, and it was.
That was the point where I went, why aren't more games like this? Like, this is what I miss. It's like how I keep saying, like, I love the new Bond movies, but I love the Pierce Brosnan ones so much more because, god damn, it's great when it's campy.
Yeah, we need more campy, just funny ass shit. That's funny. I don't know.
And people wonder why I watch anime and play really crappy JRPGs. That's where all the fun is. None of this Last of Us shit.
Okay, well, that's also good. I can't. Well, I mean, not Last of
Not
Us
not to
2.
my terrible opinion brain.
The concept, not the re-releases, just the concept of Last of Us is good.
But like, if you were to say which of the 5 games you're the most excited for, which would you go? My brain it immediately is Indiana Jones, but that's also because most of the other games just aren't on my radar right now.
So mine is Indiana Jones, just because I'm the most excited to actually have a good Indiana Jones game, hopefully, for a franchise I love. But taking that out of the picture, it is Hellblade and Ava. I can't remember what the Civilization clone game was, but those two. Those are the two that I am very excited to play. I will play both of those right when they release. I mean, the strategy game, I don't know if I'll play that exactly day one, but I will have it on my list and play it very quickly. Hellblade's day one. I have to go in there. Yeah, Avowed and Visions of Mana, I think it's called. I mean, I'd look at them if they're both on Game Pass.
Yeah,
I
they're
would look at
definitely
them.
things that we'll keep an eye on, but it's more of like, okay, we'll see how the reviews are, and maybe I'll take a pop in afterwards if it ends up being pretty good. I mean, Avowed is
Yeah.
one of those games that I hope does well, just because I want Obsidian to keep showing that they are better at doing RPGs than Bethesda is, because I still think to this day they are, but you know.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think you're alone in that.
But last but not least, we'd be idiotic if we don't talk about essentially one of the fastest growing games that are just completely like, I shouldn't say unexpectedly, but has done numbers I think faster than I think even, you know, the most optimistic person would have thought. So Palworld, aka Pokemon with guns, as everybody has basically gone to calling it.
It's that. It is just that.
So the stat that I came across, and this is why I knew we were going to talk about it in some aspect. So Palworld has become the 6th Steam game to hit 1 million concurrent players since Steam system's inception in 2003. Its 47-hour sprint to 1 million makes it the second speediest game to hit 1 million concurrent players, behind Cyberpunk 2077's 160-minute record in late 2020. And keep in mind, that was Cyberpunk broken.
What? Wow, how many returns of those was it? Oh, wow.
But like, in less than 2 days, Palworld became only the 6th game ever to have 1 million concurrent players. So it's clearly gotten people's attention. I know I've seen figures of like 6 million sales already, and it's still like not even completely released yet. And it's just one of those things where I've seen people be like, really, people thought this was a big game? To which I go, guys, it's the Pokemon game that everybody's been asking for like 20 years. Of course it was going to do well. People were going to be curious about it.
Yeah, I am extremely curious. I do want to check it out.
Now,
it is like
is it what I wanted? No, because it still feels like Fortnite and Minecraft mixed with Pokemon, and that doesn't really vibe with me. Like, I took one look at the gameplay of this game and went, people are going to love this if you're into this, if you're into Fortnite, or if you're into Minecraft, or if you're into Pokemon. I am not into Fortnite at all. I am not into Pokemon anymore. I have not been since like Ruby Sapphire. And Minecraft, I'm only into for the chill part of it. So when we're talking about all this extra crafting and stuff, I'm like, no. So this is not for me. But for anyone to say with a straight face, oh, I didn't think this is going to do well, it's like, bro, it's literally all the popular things right now, and Pokemon is mixed into it too. Of course it was going to get people's attention.
Yeah, like crafting and definitely has a Fortnite vibe, even just with the style. And Pokemon, like, holy crap. Like, like, look at Cult of the Lamb. Like, that had a huge following. And it's a lot of just like this little sim part where it's just like you have your cult and you have to build things and craft certain things. This is that turned up to 11. Like, you're getting fake Meowth here to just come and build this statue for you that you planted after you did your crafting. It is so many really popular genres put into one freaking game. And it's on Game Pass too. So that's going to drive numbers of people logging in. But like, yeah, the sales that this has had on Steam and such, holy hell. It's insane. This is insane.
Yeah, like, it's one of those games that, like I said, there's nothing in this for me at this point, but for like the majority of the gaming crowd that really flocks to the more popular stuff, like, yeah, this is not surprising that this is doing well. Like,
Yeah.
we saw what happened with Fortnite and how quickly that boosted. We've seen how Minecraft has just been consistent forever. Pokemon, even though the most recent Pokemon game was a pile of garbage when it was released, it couldn't run anything well, and people still bought it in droves and still were saying amazing things about it because it's fucking Pokemon. So you take all those things together, and even if this game was like a 6 out of 10, it was going to get a bunch of people playing because everyone wanted to know what this is. And again, going back to what I said a second ago of why it's done so well, it's the fucking Pokemon game that we've been asking Nintendo to make since really like we got into started to get put on 3D consoles. We wanted an open world Pokemon game. And they still really haven't done it. Like, they sort of tried to do it with Pokemon Violet, and that hasn't really turned out to be what people were asking for, so it's not really there yet. It's also just getting to the point that, like, and again, this is more my opinion of somebody who doesn't play the games as much as everybody else, but, like, I keep looking at what's going on with Pokemon and be like, man, what would happen if somebody other than Gamefreak just made one Pokemon game? Like, what could you do with it if they just gave it to somebody else to go try to make something with it?
Yeah. Yeah, like what if it was even just whoever the developers at Nintendo who did Tears of the Kingdom? They can create a giant, massive open world and it ran on the Switch really well. Like even just with that aspect, because Scarlet and Violet, like, holy
Well, I think
crap,
that's what the
like,
most frustrating part about that release was, is people saw what Breath of the Wild was, and this is before Tears of the Kingdom came out, where there was even more added to it, and it still ran amazingly, is how the hell did one developer do this so perfectly, and under the same developer umbrella, did another company make a game, and they release it to the same developer in Nintendo, and Nintendo went, yeah, we can put that out there, that's fine. We'll put it right next to this other game that does everything better than this one does. With arguably our biggest license.
I'm just noticing on the screen right now that the sheep's name is Lamball, and I'm dying inside. That is so fucking hilarious, and I want to download this game right after the podcast. Like, what just happened? I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this is probably not a chill game, but for some reason, I want to play this right now.
Yeah, like I honestly have watched little bits here and there from different people that were talking about it. I know 100% I will never play this because there's just all the things that like I don't have time for anymore. So it definitely won't vibe with me. But to say with a straight face that this isn't going to do well is just absolutely facetious. Like I look at this and be like, I'm surprised that the only thing I'm shocked by is that Nintendo didn't figure out how to DMCA it.
Yeah. Yeah, these aren't like the typical rip-off of Pokemon where they made their own animals or whatever.
Now, a
like,
modder tried to do that, and now he's in a lot of fucking trouble for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the community's like, don't, man. This is a good thing. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. Yeah, because people actually enjoy playing this because it does seem like I haven't tried it yet, but even just watching this gameplay, like it's the kind of stuff that I like to do in games, and it's like a bunch of like little genres kind of mixed in. I like the management of my base and having Pokemon there, and they attack, and one of them's clearly Meowth, but doesn't look like Meowth enough to get sued. Like it's exactly what I want. It's all those things. This is Fortnite.
It definitely does give me that. Steam game that has a lot of like, what's the like a lot of like pre-bought assets that they've done in there, and they've put all that in collectively into something, and then they've done some designs of their own version of Pokemon and throw that in there because there's something jarring about the way that the graphics are and then how the Pokemon fit into it. I feel like these two things don't match. So, but also it does make them pop a little bit more, so maybe there is an advantage to it too. But at the same time, like this is definitely one of those games where I'm like, yeah, no, I feel like this might have been put together with a lot of pre-made assets in like Unity or something, and then they've put a bunch of other things together. I'm not gonna like, again, this is somebody who hasn't played it, so if the quality of the work is there, props to them for making it work, because a lot of other people have tried to do the exact same thing with little work and it ends up being a pile of ass and it goes nowhere. So obviously, like, if it's getting the amount of traction that it's getting, there must be something to it that's working. So
oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I even saw an article that was talking about an interview, and I think it was one of Nintendo's lawyers or like somebody who works alongside the lawyers at Nintendo. And they said, like, yeah, we saw this game and it was just looked like every other Pokemon ripoff we'd had to deal with, so we didn't do anything about it. It's like, oh, little did you know, this is this is the biggest one that's probably ever going to be
Well, the reason that I
something you have to
thought,
deal with.
this would have been a lot harder to come out was because it was shown off on, was it either Summer Game Fest or was the Game Awards? I think it might have been Summer Game Fest.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because at the time, I'm like, okay, this is big exposure. Like, this isn't like, some random game that got put on, Steam one day. Like, this got major exposure. And everybody was talking about it. Like, I remember when it first came out, people were like, holy fuck, is that Pokemon with guns? And like no one would stop talking about it. Now it went away for a little while because we all just assumed there was no way this game was going to get released. Nintendo was going to just throw every lawyer in the book that they had at it to get rid of that, because Nintendo really loves to go to litigation with a lot of things. So
yeah,
even if you do it for
they're
free,
just,
like I remember somebody was trying to do, I think it was Mario Kart 64. It was either Mario Kart 64 or Super Mario 64 in 4K, and it wasn't going to charge anything.
Oh yeah,
and they still stopped it.
Yeah, they were doing it in Unity or something like that. It was, I think, Super Mario 64. Oh, there's a few of them that it's happened, but yeah, it got.
Well, like
it
we're
got,
talking about games that were
taken
never
down.
going to charge for them, and they were stopping
Yeah.
that. And here's something that blatantly is ripping off their IP, and like they're even like, look, let's be honest, there are some. I don't know if they're just called pals in this game, but like there are some of them that are like, guys, that is Pikachu. Stop trying to like that is so obviously you just take it. Like, here's our lightning rat. I'm like, guys,
A lightning rat. Yeah, he's like a big lightning rat on a tank or something. It's like that's just Pikachu's older brother.
they should
It's,
go
he's
all in. Where's the
terrifying.
keychain Pokemon?
Keychain Pokemon?
I'm not lying either.
No, there's some Pokemon where it's like you guys ran out of ideas. Holy shit.
Which is why I said for the longest time, why are we trying to have a massive number of new Pokemon? You could just expand things and just
Yeah.
maybe add like 10 or 20, and I'm sure people would be fine, because let's be honest, Pokemon people they're pretty heavy into just buying everything that comes out for it, so I don't think they would have had to like completely redo the roster every time.
No, and they could like make it in a new Pokemon game where you like they've got 1,000 of them now. They could stop, and when a new game comes out, they pick a random 150 of them. Like and it would be like cool. Oh my gosh, there's a Charmander and this Score Bunny. I've never been able to have them beside each other. That's crazy. Oh my god. Like
Like,
don't know.
eventually they're just gonna have to give up and be like, all right, here's a multiverse for Pokemon. Here's a new version of Red where it's the same 151, but now it's you're not Ash, or you're not Red, quote unquote. You're Gary, and we're like, no.
Oh yeah. No. I don't know. The game Palworld does look fun. I know some people who are like playing it. I can see myself playing it and liking it, but it would be more something like I would need a group of friends who hop in like once a week, and I play that with them that once a week. I can't see myself going in alone and playing it for a long time and being like, I'll ignore all my other games and play this. I really don't see that happening. But if other people were playing that I knew, I could see myself hopping in and being like, okay, this is fun with friends to like hop in and build a base and have Pokemon.
Now it just seems like it's going to be that game that we're like, all right, so this is probably going to win Community Choice Awards for the year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Game Awards are done. That we already got
Yeah,
it. That's the one.
what is it, the Player's Choice for fan voting? Like, unless somebody tries to meme that out of existence, it just feels like that's probably going to be the winner now.
No, it's going to win Best Art Direction too. It's getting everything. Like, it doesn't matter.
I think it's Best Art Direction. I have a lot of questions.
I think that Hellblade 2 would be like, really? Seriously?
And at that point, Microsoft would be like, can one of our IP just fucking win something, please?
Can something just take? We're throwing everything we've got at the wall. One has to stick.
It's probably like similar to Insomniac, where they're like, Spider-Man, we're making so many good fucking Spider-Man games. Why can't they win anything?
Oh, the Game Awards. The cause and solution to all of life's problems.
It is?
No, it's
News
not.
to me, god damn. I mean, at one point, it was the solution to letting fans go up on stage and say random shit. That's what it was good for a little while there.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I'm glad they shut that down. Or, I mean, did
Well,
they? We'll see.
we'll see at Summer Game Fest if they can keep a streak going for that.
Hey, if anyone wants to come on stage, say no. Don't let them. Just say that to the security guards. That'll probably help.
They'll be
Hire
like, no,
more
no,
of
no,
them.
I'm part of the team. It's like, yeah, wait, you're part of the development team? Yeah, I was in the gym. And they'll be like, what? No, yeah, I was there. It's fine.
Yeah, go ahead. Go on stage.
Well, like, are you gonna say anything? No, no, no. I'm not gonna say anything random like about Bill Clinton or anything or something like that.
Sir, that's oddly specific.
It's still one of those fucking things that like you watch and you go, did I just have a stroke? What did I just see?
Yeah, because it's not like any of it made sense. It's not like a protester went out about some like current event or something.
No, it's not. It's
always
not
just
even like just some like guy was like splurting out like all right points or anything. Like there was nothing like to it. It was just gibberish, and we're like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be mad or not.
yeah.
I'm just confused.
Yeah, I feel so confused. You were laying in bed afterwards. You go to bed at night and you're like still thinking about it. You don't remember the rest of the Game Awards. You're not excited for anything. You're confused about Bill Clinton. You're just laying there. Who knows?
Who knows? But I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the last question I should ask is, what does Nintendo do now in response to this? Do they suddenly go and be like, so we basically now have to make this but better, right? Like, it almost feels like the pressure now has to be on them to be like, whatever the next big Pokemon game is has to be amazing, because now somebody's looking at Palworld and going, well, they've already done the open world Pokemon better than Scarlet Violet did, so your court, I guess, Nintendo.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they really do need to up their game. I think that Scarlet and Violet is like a beta, like an early release title, and it never really got fully finished. I like it, but I play it with people, and again, that just makes it enjoyable. If I had to only do that game single player for the entire thing, I would have nowhere put anywhere
Yeah,
as
I mean,
near as many hours
in
in there.
retrospect now, like that game is unacceptable for the quality that we expect out of Nintendo these days.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. Like especially like one of their main franchises. That's like imagine like a Mario Kart came out and all of a sudden it was 30 FPS or something. Like people would be
And
like, "What the
it
fuck
controlled
is going
like,
on?"
a $10 cash in, like what was that? What's that YouTube channel? Ryan's Toys, where they had their own little kart
Oh,
game.
God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
Ryan's World.
that's what it felt like. Burger King Racing. That's what it felt like. If that's what it would have been like if Mario Kart came out like that. Whereas like again, like I don't think it was that hard for Gamefreak or Nintendo to go, okay, so obviously people are basically asking for Breath of the Wild but Pokemon, so that should be what we should be trying to deliver. Maybe they just can't because the scope of the game's too big, into which case you go, okay, if it doesn't work, why can't you just make a really good 3D Pokemon game that just plays much like how like the old Game Boy games did? Because it feels like the formula is fine. It's just people were looking for, a much cleaner version. Because, like, the 3DS games, like, they were fine. But, like, I think it was getting to a point that when you look at them, it's like, yeah, this needs to get an upgrade. Like, it's just finally at that point where it's the same formula way too much. It just needs something different about it. Or even in the sense of, how do we still not have a Pokemon Stadium 3 or whatever we would call it now?
Yeah.
Or, like, a Pokemon Coliseum or a Pokemon Gale of Darkness as we had on the GameCube. Like, it feels like with everything else that Nintendo has under its umbrella, Pokemon is where they're being lazy. And I guess based on their sales, it makes sense because they probably make more in merch than they do with anything else. They don't even need to make the games anymore. But
yeah,
it's at the point now that it's like, okay, Mario is older than Pokemon and it's running amazingly well still. Zelda, way older than Pokemon, still runs amazingly well. Metroid, been around a little bit longer, has had its ups and downs, but as it currently stands, is back to form again. So, like, that's its three major properties. Pokemon, I would say, is honestly above all of them now, I think, in terms of just its popularity. And the fact that I don't even think, like, it's currently in my top 5 of, like, Nintendo properties that I think are coming up with the highest quality right now is, like, that shouldn't be a possibility considering how well-known Nintendo is for holding stuff back and really fine-tuning its quality for these games that are coming out, especially on Switch nowadays, because it seems like whenever it's a first-party Nintendo game, it may not be your thing, but it's going to be whoever's thing it is, it's going to be the best thing they have on that console.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, because all their other first-party titles are usually like solid, but yeah, just not Pokemon for some reason. And I think Nintendo does need to step it up. Like the idea of it being open world and multiplayer and stuff, I think that's cool. Like they'll probably aim for that, but they've got to make the performance and the even just the resolution of the game like actually still be of a certain quality in order to be able to keep that up. Now, will Nintendo? I don't know. Probably
I mean, the
not,
track record
because-
tells me no, but it also depends on how well
Yeah.
Palworld does after it actually releases too, which is
Yeah.
going to be a different
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, especially since the rumors that Switch 2 is coming maybe this year, or at least is getting announced this year. Like they've already got to be working on whatever Pokemon would be next for the next system, anyways. Probably wouldn't be like a launch title, but I mean, they've
Yeah.
got to at least be working on it or thinking about it. Hopefully, this is early enough in the stages. They're like, damn, this is this. We need to like compete with this, or we're going to get taken over by, fake us. And we can't have that. So,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
really going to
hopefully.
depend on how, like, obviously it's a big thing now. As we thought with a lot of other games, like, it really depends on how its staying power goes. If Palworld is still having the pull that it's having today, to, like, it's obviously not going to be, 1 million concurrent players on Steam forever. But if it can still keep a pretty good, like, following for the next, like, let's say up until the spring, then the conversation changes. It's like, maybe Nintendo's hoping that this is just a flash in the pan and it goes away. I don't think it is at this point, because I don't think you become the 6th game ever in Steam history to get a million concurrent players, and then you suddenly vanish off the face of the planet in a month. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening. But I wonder if they're maybe going to kind of wait and see what happens with this. And if it keeps sticking, they're eventually going to have to go, all right, so we actually have competition for the first time in ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this would be because even when Digimon and stuff came out, it's not like,
Yeah, it was
that
more like a competition in
all-
terms of the show, not the games.
yeah.
Like
yeah,
the
not
closest I think we
game.
might have ever gotten was Yokai Watch, and I think that was also made by the same developers, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it might have been. You might be right on that.
Check. Okay, no, it was not. It was done with Level 5 and Ubisoft.
Oh, level 5.
But it was
Okay.
also released on DS, and even then, like, I don't think Nintendo was sweating in their boots either, because Yokai Watch did have its moment in the sun, especially in Japan, but it just hasn't clicked here in the same way that Pokemon did, for the
Yeah.
same reasons that a lot of things don't. Like, obviously here in Canada, like, Walmart was the first big box store from the States to come in. Target came way after, and I knew from the get-go that Target wasn't going to do well here, because they really didn't do anything to differentiate themselves and stick into people's minds. Yokai Watch, same deal. Pokemon's been established for such a long time with us as a community. So when Yokai Watch came out, we were like, oh, that's cool, more Pokemon. I'll play that. And then we played it and went, that was fun. I'll go back to Pokemon now, because they didn't do anything to stick with people. So I
Yeah.
feel like at this point, like, I don't think Nintendo at all is shaking in their boots. I think they've realized that this is just, it's probably something that's going to direct attention away for a moment. But as soon as the next Pokemon gets announced, all the eyes will come back and everything will be good to go. And even if some of the eyes are lost, they will not be losing enough to really make any sort of a dent in their sales. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I still want to try it, but it's on Game Pass. I probably wouldn't buy it because I don't think I'd stick with it. But I'll
no,
probably give it a
even
try.
if I was interested, I think this is an easy case for, yeah, I'll get it on Game Pass rather than spending the however much it's going to cost me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But any last thoughts before we take this sucker off the air for the week?
No, that's all I've got.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode. There's going to be no side quest this week either. So, like, Kaylan already is not here this week, and Chris and I are both, like, we're super busy at our work. So this is, like, our small window of time that we have to do stuff. So we're going to pump you out this one episode, and then hopefully, I'm knocking on the bit of wood that I have remotely close by to me here, that at least things calm down a little bit more so that we can have a little bit more time to get these side quests out. Granted, also, like, there just hasn't been anything else, like, too notable to do as a side quest. I mean, if we just come up with some random topic, we can do it, but as it stands right now, there's nothing that seemed nearly as topical as like obviously the PlayStation Portal when Kaylan was messing with that, or other things that we usually do. But hopefully next week we'll be back to a normal schedule. It just seems like we're in a bit of a busy patch, so we're trying to get you at least the weekly episode, and then we'll work from there. But with that being said, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on any audio platform, if you have ability to give us a rating, please do so there. Obviously, share with all your fellow gamer friends, and if you want to check more of us here, you have our link tree. That's linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast, link to our socials, link to our Discord, link to wherever you can find the podcast outside of where you're already listening or watching. So we will see you on the next episode, where we basically make fun of Kaylan for probably getting sunburned, because Kratos, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't think that skin handles sun very well.
No, looks pale.
Well, we'll find out. We'll see if he's got the tan going on by the end of it, although his beard's covering up most of it. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Take care.